What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight, it is December 27th. Hope you guys all had a wonderful Christmas weekend. And we're going to get you guys through to the Fantasy Championship. It's week 17. We're going to go over the waiver wire. I'll answer any questions you guys have in the chat room. And we'll kind of make this a quick video tonight. It's week 17. There shouldn't be too many guys on the waiver wire that we're going to rely on for our fantasy championships, but I think a huge part of the waiver wire this late is playing defense and adding players to block other, your opponent in some big ways here. So we're going to kind of go over the majority of the waiver wire report. There is a link in the description. And again, it's week 17, so do your best to play defense, monitor some of these injuries. We have a list of injuries here. We're going to see if Jalen Hurts can play. He's questionable for week 17 with the shoulder injury. It sounds like he's going to give it a go. So I think if you're holding out hope for Jalen Hurts, I would expect him to play this weekend. We'll know more about this, of course, Wednesday, Thursday with the practice report. So we'll monitor those. But I'm going to lean towards Jalen Hurts playing. If not, Gardner Minshew is not a bad start. He did, perform well for us last week against Dallas. So if no Hurts, make sure you got Minshew. Lamar Jackson questionable with that knee injury. Now, they did move that Ravens-Pittsburgh Steelers game into prime time. So I think that's a good sign that we're probably going to see Lamar. We have the new concussion for Tua. I'm going to list him as doubtful for week 17. We'll see. Dolphins need a win over the next 2 weeks to get into the playoffs, so we'll see. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is likely the starter this weekend. It sounds like Mike White is good to go. He's going to be starting week 17. They're not even going to have Zach Wilson active, so that's where he's at in New York right now. And then Colt McCoy, he had a concussion, didn't play last weekend. I would expect him to probably be practicing this week and probably going to start the final 2 games here. Running backs, Aaron Jones, he's nursing an ankle injury, and there might be something more here, but they didn't really use him a lot against Miami on Christmas Day. So we'll see. He's listed as questionable for week 17, but he's more of an RB2 flex play at this point because it looks like A.J. Dillon's the guy that's getting the volume. I'm not sure what's going on with Derrick Henry. He's got kind of an unknown injury. I did see that he practiced today. That was the major news that came out. Of course, Dallas and Tennessee play on Thursday Night Football this week. And it says it's his hip injury. So this might be just like he didn't practice yesterday. That might just be a limiting day to make sure he's good to go for Thursday Night Football. But Derrick Henry practicing. Tennessee's interesting because essentially this game does not matter to them. They have to beat Jacksonville to win the AFC South next week. So we'll see if they rest their guys. Maybe they get off to a bad start and pull some players. So it's a little bit, uneven, shaky grounds there if you're starting Derrick Henry. You're not starting anybody else on Tennessee. Jamal Williams left the game with a leg injury, did not return. He's going to be listed as questionable to doubtful for this week. So DeAndre Swift might be the guy to get back in your lineups. And then Damian Harris, he's been out with that thigh injury for the last few games. We'll see if he can play this week. Wide receivers, it looks like Deebo Samuel's practicing with his. He's going to probably play this week. And that's a good way to get him back into the fold before the playoffs. I'm not sure if I'm going to trust him in my lineups, but if you do have Deebo, keep in mind he might be on a pitch count, a snap count. Probably not going to be out there getting all those carries, that we're accustomed to. So Deebo, we'll see. I think he's leaning towards playing week 17. I also think Tyler Lockett's going to play through this finger injury. So if you were waiting for him, let's see if he practices this week and gets in the lineup. I listed Chris Olave as doubtful. He might be done for the season with that hamstring. Saints essentially need to win the final 2 games. They need some help. We'll see what happens, but I don't think he's going to play this weekend. And then Christian Watson, he had a great first half on Christmas Day against Miami, but with the hip injury, he didn't play the rest of the second half, and we're going to list him as questionable, so we have to watch his reports. Handful of tight ends here. Greg Dulcich left with a hamstring injury. Not sure if we want to be trusting any Broncos in our championship Sunday. Hayden Hurst with a calf injury. We'll see. I don't think we're going to trust him in lineups either. And then both Patriots tight ends here. We haven't been using them all season, but both Patriots tight ends not in the mix, probably in our fantasy lineups this week. Let's move on to quarterbacks. I do have a list of quarterbacks that should be rostered. These guys are all highly owned in ESPN leagues. If you can get Trevor Lawrence, I'm cool with it. He plays Houston. It's a good matchup. But otherwise, Daniel Jones at home against the Indianapolis Colts, that's not a bad spot to be right there. He's been playing well. Giants need to continue to win to get in, so expect a good effort from the Giants. Otherwise, I think Jared Goff, if you're streaming a quarterback, say you had Tua, or you're waiting on Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, I think Jared Goff is the preferred streamer this weekend. It's a home game against the Bears. Lions need to win to stay into the playoffs. So I do like Jared Goff quite a bit. You also have Brock Purdy, soft matchup against the Raiders. And then, of course, if no Jalen Hurts, I'm going to say Gardner Minshew's up there with a really nice start against the Saints at home. if you're in super flex leagues, Mike White, Gardner Minshew, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, these guys should all be in your lineups. And there's really nothing else down here. If you're in a desperation super flex mode, I suppose Teddy Bridgewater might not be a bad spot. It's at New England, so not looking good for the matchup. But if you need super flex help, that's where we're at for quarterbacks. Looking at the running backs, short list this weekend. I know Brian Robinson's probably owned. He'd be the top of my list. Cam Akers probably owned as well, but those are the two guys that stick out the most. It appears Leonard Fournette is back as kind of the 1A. Rashad White still got enough points, but if he's available, he's a fine RB2. And then Zach Moss. I know Colts offense looked putrid with Nick Foles at the helm. Zach Moss still, was able to get 8 PPR points, so he's a decent, to low end RB2 flex play. But the guy you want is Tyler Algier for the Falcons. He's been coming on nicely the last 2 weeks. He's supplanted Cordero Patterson as the lead back. It's a decent matchup against the Cardinals this weekend. If you need to plug in someone as your RB2, it is Algier. I like Chuba Hubbard, but he's got a tough matchup against Tampa Bay. So for me, it's Algier and maybe some of the other guys here that I have in bold. Looking at the wide receivers, the guys that are probably available here, you got to talk about Darius Slayton, DJ Chark, still only 31% rostered. Jahan Dotson, he's looking like a young alpha wide receiver. It looks like him and Terry McLaurin are going to form a really nice duo for the next few seasons. And then Romeo Doubs, only because Christian Watson is we have to monitor his hip injury. So if Watson can't practice or go this weekend, Romeo Doubs is going to be an interesting flex question that I'm sure I'll get. Keep an eye on Rashid Shaheed. He's the lead wide receiver in New Orleans. Not a sexy play, but he does have big playability where you can take him to the house at any point. And then the Giants receivers down here. Richie James, PPR slot machine. And then Isaiah Hodgins has been really dependable the last few weeks as he's been catching touchdowns. So if you need a Giants receiver, that's not a bad spot. But do check out for DJ Chark. I think he's the guy. If you had to plug one guy into your lineup this week from this list, it's probably DJ Chark. Tight ends. Oh my God, tight end is so ugly. TJ Hawkinson came through, so if you got him, you're feeling good. Travis Kelce continues to come through. Those are really it. George Kittle's been playing better as well. Those are probably the 3 hottest tight ends in the game right now. If you need a tight end this week, though, I think you're looking at Evan Ingram against the Houston Texans, maybe Higbee against the Chargers, and then Dawson Knox. But again, these guys are all highly owned. If you can't find one of these guys, it's probably Taysom Hill, who... It's a tight end. He can throw, run, catch a touchdown at any given moment. He's probably the one guy that I'm okay with, coming from the waiver wire and starting in my tight end slot. Otherwise, keep an eye on Noah Fant because I did see the Seahawks put Will Dissly on IR, so maybe some more opportunities coming for Noah Fant this weekend. And then defenses, I listed these guys in order of preference. That's going to be the Chiefs defense at home against Denver. That's a beautiful matchup. Denver scoring the fewest points per game, so we love to see that. The Falcons versus the Cardinals, not a super trustworthy team, but it is a good matchup. The Giants versus the Colts, Nick Foles, we saw what he did last night with the interceptions. The Ravens defense at home versus Pittsburgh. The Cowboys are a top 5 play at Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. 49ers, Chargers, a pretty good play against the Rams. Tampa Bay, maybe against the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles, I'm not so scared about the Saints offense. Maybe the Panthers. I'm still not counting the Panthers out from winning that division. So keep an eye on Carolina and then maybe the Jags at Houston. So that's it. That's the waiver wire report. That's the last waiver wire report of the year. So we're coming down to the final championship weekend. I had a lot of fun hanging out with everybody this year, doing the waiver wire reports, doing the start sit charts, which are all live here. If you guys want to check out these, I did load everything up here today on Tuesday. So check out these guys if you're looking for players that you need to, consider starting as a wide receiver 3 or RB2 or a flex. That's a good way to gauge some things there. And then I did go ahead and put the fantasy points allowed into the correct week as well. So it's week 17. Play the matchups. We know what's going on. We know what defenses to target, which ones to avoid. So that's all there for you. And yeah, that's about it. We're gonna hang out Wednesday night. We're gonna do a start sit live Wednesday night. I'll also probably hang out a little bit before the Thursday night game, Dallas, Tennessee. So if you guys do have questions, hang out with us on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, and then Thursday night we hang out at 6:30 Central Time. So find us there on the live stream. Subscribe if you are new. Hope you guys have the best rest of your week here, and we'll see you in a live stream. Adios.